By the time you reach to the end of the story, you'll understand why his voice once echoed from Lagos to Addis Ababa and from London to the heart of Africa. Why they called him the Golden Voice of Africa. Before independence had a date, before Nigeria had colors, a coat of arms or a constitution signed by her own hands, there was a teacher, a modest man, a poet in parliament, a bridge between empires, and a soul stitched into the very fabric of a new nation. His name was Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and when he spoke, the world listened, not for the force of his voice, but for the purity of it. It was measured, it was musical, it was magnetic. They called him the Golden Voice of Africa. He was born in December 1912 in Bauchi, northern Nigeria, to a humble Muslim family. He wasn't born with wealth or title or fame. He was born with words, educated at Balewa College, the then Katsina College, and later at the University of London's Institute of Education. Balewa returned not as a man changed by the West, but as a man prepared to lead his own. He became one of Nigeria's first trained teachers, and for years he taught with chalk before he ever spoke with a microphone. He would later say, "Education is light, a teacher is a lantern in the darkness." And long before he became Nigeria's first Prime Minister, he lit the minds of young Hausa boys with words that would one day shape the nation. Balewa entered politics in the 1940s, not with the fiery defiance of a revolutionary, but with the grace of a diplomat. He joined the Nigerian People's Congress, the NPC, and rose very quickly through the ranks. In a divided Nigeria, ethnically, religiously, and regionally, Balewa was a man of the middle. Northern but respected in the south. Muslim but open-minded. Traditional but progressive. Gentle yet unshakably firm. When Nigeria gained independence on October 1st, 1960, it wasn't just a date. It was the culmination of decades of negotiation, tension, and soul-searching. And Tafawa Balewa, as Nigeria's first Prime Minister, became the face, and more importantly, the voice of a new nation. They didn't call him the Golden Voice because he was loud. They called him that because his voice carried weight. In an era dominated by aggressive rhetoric and radical revolutionaries, Balewa was calm, articulate, deeply respectful, and painstakingly clear. When he stood before the United Nations in 1960, days after Nigeria's independence, he said, "We are grateful to the colonial powers for the contributions they have made to our development, but independence for Nigeria is not the end. It is only the beginning of a new partnership with the rest of the world." The room paused. The tone was humble, but behind the humility was immense dignity. To African leaders and European diplomats alike, his words were silk but never soft. To fellow heads of state, he spoke not just for Nigeria, but for the emerging voice of a continent, a new Africa, an Africa no longer whispered about, but heard in full golden voice. Tafawa Balewa's style of leadership was measured and inclusive. He avoided inflammatory language, choosing reason over rage. He understood the danger of Nigeria's ethnic fault lines and tried to govern with coalition, not coercion. Even in times of crisis, he remained collected. His speeches were poetic, sometimes almost prayerful. He never shouted, yet people leaned in. In an age where charisma was currency, Balewa's currency was character. But not every voice can protect against the storm. On the 15th of January 1966, Nigeria woke up to its first military coup. Young soldiers stormed Lagos, Kaduna, and Ibadan, fueled by frustration, inequality, and ambition. Balewa was abducted. And days later, he was found dead by a roadside. His body dumped unceremoniously, his voice silenced. His death didn't just mark the fall of a leader, it marked the collapse of Nigeria's first republic, a brutal turning point in our democratic story. Many of the voices that rose after him shouted louder, but few spoke with his weight. Today, when our politics becomes noise and our leaders speak more to power than to people, remember Balewa. Not because he was perfect, not because he was loud, but because he believed in dignity, dialogue, and discipline. Because in a world of angry slogans, he showed us the power of a quiet, unwavering truth. Because sometimes what a nation needs is not a sword, but a voice. The golden voice of Africa, Tafawa Balewa, Nigeria's first Prime Minister, her quiet strength, her fallen lantern.